One reason we have chosen this region of Germany was the people. Numerous radio amateurs organized numerous clubs. Most within reach of the competition sites were most valuable when it came to organize the WRTC 2018, but were priceless when it came to carry out. Volunteering in the site teams, in the antenna construction teams, at the warehouse, or in the media and press team. Right now, most of our volunteers are out in the fields, already built 64 stations. And watching over the sites. But on Monday, for the closing ceremony, they will join us here at this place to celebrate the WRTC 2018. Be sure to thank them for their efforts. We are also very thankful for our financial sponsors. First of all, our prime sponsor Jesu and more than 20 corporate sponsors, over 100 clubs and foundations topped by the WROF, and last but not least, over 1,000 individual donors who made this event happen by their contributions, large and small. From the very beginning of our preparations, we were asked by the competitors to create a level playing field. We found a region providing very flat lands. We did HFDA simulations on the computer and measurements in the field. We scanned the frequencies at each site for possible man-made noise. So after we all did this, we can claim we created a level playing field. Dear competitors, now it's your turn. Make the best of it and keep the bands rocking. Therefore, I wish all competitors good luck and a good time for all of us. To a successful WRTC 2018. Thank you. Thank you. Being the 8th WRTC this year, a lot of people don't know about the beginnings. Some information has been published here and there, but if you really want to get the insights, you have to ask someone who was there. One of those veterans took part 4 times at the WRTC, and he won the first one. He was in the organizing committee of the WRTC 2014. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome John Doerr, Kilo 1 Alpha Radio.
Well, good evening. I don't know if we can have a ceremony like this unless we look at the very beginning of WRTC. And I don't know, I'm looking at the crowd. I think WRTC is starting to catch on. What do you think? Yeah? Well, 28 years ago, the concept of WRTC began in 1990 in Seattle. And actually, around 1988 is when we, not me, but people who were involved began to really think about the idea of having something like this emerge. There were folks like K7SS, OH2BH, N0AX, a long list of people. And it was a very, very different event back then. And in fact, frankly, most of us didn't even really know what it was. We were told to send an application with a resume. Can you imagine that, writing a resume for ham radio? You know, I'm a self-starter, I double my score every year, you know, all the things you write in a resume, but we had to do it for our ham radio. But we did it, the teams were selected, And I, along with that K1DG guy, were fortunate to be one of the teams that could represent the U.S. And it was really, truly an amazing event from the very beginning. Many of you don't remember this or know it, but the first WRTC contest was actually on Friday. It wasn't on a weekend. We had to, everything was lined up because we were coordinating with the Goodwill Games at the time in 1990, which was sponsored by Ted Turner, if you recall. And during that period of time, the only slot that was available that we could do it was on a Friday. So imagine having a contest on a Friday morning. We had no idea if anyone was going to participate. And we had no idea if we were going to make 50 QSOs or 1,000 or what the numbers were going to be. But it turned out to be an incredible success. We were blessed with a call that was used in a contest, November 7, Mike Japan Zulu. Now imagine saying that for 24 hours. But the program is very simple. We operated at host stations, so every station was a little bit different. It wasn't quite the level playing field that has been achieved here and in some of the previous WRTCs. But here's how we were described. We were all using our call sign /WG. And the people listening to the radio during that time were saying that we sounded like a bunch of little flies that were just buzzing around on the band. All signing our call, N7 whatever, stroke WG. It turned out that some of the participants who were not part of the teams figured out that, hey, that WG thing is kind of cool. So by the end of the contest, there were 50 stations who started using WG who had nothing to do with WRTC, but they joined in the fun too. So the stations were a little simpler back then. We had an IC 765 and a 735 for a receiver and a true multi-single. We used paper logs, can you imagine that? And we had no memory keyers, we had to send everything by hand. The final scores, it turned out, you needed about 1,300 or 1,400 QSOs is what it took to win that contest that year, the very first one. So I call that a huge success. One of the stories I love to tell was we had a very enthusiastic host, and we were in the middle of kind of a downtown, very urban environment. And what he chose to do was to take the audio from our radios and pipe it into speakers and bring it out to the street. And he actually had it going out in the sidewalk so his neighbors and anybody walking by could listen to us operating the radio. And he actually had a little crowd of people who were tuned in and listening to N7 MJZ stroke WG for the whole time. And I guess some people actually did do that. But you know, at the end of the day, WRTC in 1990 is really the same as WRTC today. In a couple ways I'll just briefly describe in closing. I think the first thing is that there would be no WRTC if there were not volunteers. So if you're a volunteer, would you stand up? I want to acknowledge you guys one more time. Are there volunteers here tonight? Anybody helping? Without